Hi, Zach. Hi, everyone. I'm Vasek. My co-founder and I are based in Prague, and we are working on Foundry. Foundry is the fastest way to build, debug, and deploy serverless backend. With serverless backend, you don't have to manage your own server, which makes it very easy to write. At the same time, though, the serverless backend is also annoyingly hard to debug, test, deploy, and collaborate across your teams. The current state is that developers either deploy their code directly to the cloud to get up-to-date production data and environment, and this process takes minutes and you have to do it every time you want to test some changes, or they manage their own local environment, which they must configure manually and keep up to date with the production. This takes a significant amount of time and skill, plus it's also hard to share this environment with your team. The current solutions focus mostly on how to easily deploy the code from your computer onto the production. We handle the full flow, from the development, debugging, testing, and all the way to the deployment. Foundry is universal. You can use it to build both backend for your iOS app and backend for a web app. Foundry is a CLI tool that once started, it automatically spins up a development environment in the cloud for you. Your environment is pre-configured, always in sync with your production environment and data, and auto-managed by Foundry. Front-end developer, for example, can even directly connect to the backend developer's environment and integrate new API endpoint as it's being developed in the real time. We make sure you find production bugs during the development and not after the deployment. But it still feels like if you were developing locally. Every time you change your code, we automatically push the changes to the cloud, run the code, and give you back the result. And the feedback is near instant. We launched our previous MVP on the product hunt and received almost 700 upvotes. We also have more than 500 signed up users. And right now, we are testing the CLI with the first few users. Currently, we support Firebase functions and Google Cloud functions. And in the near future, we will support Lambda functions on AWS. Eventually, we want to handle all types of backends, not just serverless. For example, there are similar problems in the Kubernetes world. We are a team of 2 developers, and together we have built tens of projects. We are building Foundry as a solution to our own problem. To sum it up, Foundry is the fastest way to build, debug, and deploy serverless backend. And right now, we are looking for introductions to the first customers. And we are also looking for introductions to the investors to start building relationships for the seed round we want to raise later this year. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for that. So, curious how you think about, you mentioned kind of all the upvotes on Product Hunt, getting 500 to 700 people that have signed up early. How do you think of getting enmeshed in developer communities, to get them using Foundry? I know, Firebase, et cetera, invested a lot to grow early on. I'm curious how you think about growing Foundry, beyond the initial early launch phases.
Mm-hmm. So currently we are focused especially on Firebase developers and on the integration of Firestore and Cloud Functions, because there are like bigger pain points when you want to create multiple different environments, for example, development environment, staging and production, testing environment. And also we are focused on, well, we find out that mobile developers have such problems more than website developers, because often these tools like Zite, for example, are meant for website developers, and mobile developers, like, we just talk to one and they have to create new projects manually and copy data like with their own scripts, and it's pretty annoying. So this is our target audience. And also a lot of people who signed up because they are working in a dev shop where they have multiple projects and they have to take care of all these environments manually, and it's pretty annoying. So that's our go-to-market strategy.
And so the go-to-market is you'll sell to dev shops, or you'll kind of grow organically and through individuals, because I think different types of sales cycles probably to get to both of those.
Yeah, yes. Right now we are mostly focused on individuals to get all the bugs out from CLI, and smaller teams. And later we want to focus on bigger teams and possibly enterprises with much more features.
And how much progress have you made to date? It seems like from what you've explained in the deck that using Foundry is fully possible end-to-end today to deploy serverless. Is that the case? What kind of milestones do you see yourself hitting? You mentioned starting to raise money Q3, Q4. What do you think it takes to get there?
So when we start working on Foundry, we our approach was a little bit different, and The MVP we built on Product Hunt was mostly focused on one-click deploying full build features. And this CLI tool that we are building now, we iterate to it about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, but we have already the debugging and deploying part running. And that we think is the most important now, because all these tools are focused on deploying, but almost none of these tools are focused on development cycle itself.
And so why focus on owning the whole thing end to end? You mentioned, everyone's focused on deploying. Does it spread you too thin to kind of focus on everything from, develop, debug, deploy? Or do you think, as a small company, you can do all of those things well?
Yeah, we will definitely do it gradually. And we think that these other companies take deployment and development as two other things. But with our approach, we take it as everything is part of development. So the deployment is part of development, and the testing is also part of it. And you should be able to, or there should be a tool that integrates it into your normal coding workflow, as if you were just running, read, evaluate, print loop. And with that focus, we feel it's like one big product. It's not different products or like different use cases.
Got it. Yeah, I think my only feedback is it seems selling it in that case probably seems to be like a replacement for different tools, like you were saying, at different steps in the workflow. I wonder how you can kind of convince the developers to be, to try something new that replaces multiple tools in their workflow, instead of kind of starting small and focusing on one part of the problem. But it seems like you're starting a little bit small and you'll expand over time.
Yes, and we want to, for example, with Terraform, we think we can up to some point integrate it into our workflow or into developers' workflow, so they don't have to switch completely. They can start using our development cycle and gradually keep using more and more, because it will be easier just to use eventually our tool, because we start at development, not deployment.
Yeah, awesome. I think we're about out of time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vasek.